Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Andrew Thompson had always been the kind of husband who believed his wife's word. It wasn't naivety, it was trust built over 6 years of marriage. Trust that showed up in small gestures, leaving his phone unlocked anywhere in the house, sharing bank passwords without hesitation, talking about his day without omitting details. To Andrew, marriage was exactly that, total transparency, no shadows, no doubts. He worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized company in Charlotte, North Carolina, and spent most of the week traveling for client meetings. But whenever he was home, he made a point of being present. He made breakfast, planned dinners, organized weekends. He believed a strong marriage was built in those moments, in those daily choices to be together, to share life. Carla, his wife, was a high school teacher. She had a predictable routine. She'd wake up early, go to school, come back in the late afternoon, and 3 times a week, head straight to the gym. Or at least that's what she said. Andrew never questioned it. Why would he? She'd always been dedicated to her health, always talked about the importance of exercise and taking care of her body. And he supported her. He paid her gym membership, bought workout clothes when she asked, and encouraged her. After all, he saw her as a determined woman who took care of herself and had her own routines. To him, that was healthy, it showed independence and balance. But something started to change in recent months. Subtle shifts, almost imperceptible unless you were really paying attention. Carla began going to the gym more often. It wasn't 3 times a week anymore, it became 4, then 5. Her schedule stretched out too. Before, she'd leave at 7 in the evening and be back around 9. Now, she'd come home at 10, 11, sometimes even later. Always with the same explanation: everyone stayed chatting after the workout, or I went to grab a smoothie with the girls. Andrew, busy with work, didn't pay much attention. After all, she had her own life, friends, interests. He didn't want to be one of those controlling husbands who questioned every move, every delay. To him, trust also meant freedom. But there were other signs. Small details that, on their own, meant nothing. Together, they started forming a pattern. The perfume. Carla always wore the same scent, the one Andrew had given her as a gift years ago. Suddenly, a new one appeared, bolder, stronger. She said a friend had recommended it and she wanted to try something different. He thought it was odd but didn't say anything. Then came the makeup. Carla never used to wear much makeup to go to the gym. But now she'd leave the house with her eyes carefully done, subtle lipstick, her hair styled. When Andrew casually mentioned it, she laughed and said she was taking better care of herself, that it made her feel good. He swallowed the explanation, but something inside him started to nag. And then there was the phone. Carla had always left her phone lying around the house, unlocked, with no secrets. But in recent weeks, he noticed she started carrying it everywhere. She'd take it to the bathroom, to the kitchen. And whenever Andrew came near while she was on it, she'd quickly turn off the screen, as if hiding something. He tried to ignore it, tried to convince himself he was being paranoid. But the feeling that something was wrong wouldn't go away. It was like a shadow slowly growing, taking up more and more space in his mind. One Thursday night, Andrew had to travel to Atlanta for an important meeting the next day. Carla said goodbye to him at the door, gave him a quick kiss, and said she'd take advantage of it to work out earlier. He got in the car, drove to the airport, caught his flight. But during the trip, he couldn't stop thinking about those details, those signs he'd been ignoring for weeks. He arrived at the hotel, dropped his bag in the room, and lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. The meeting was scheduled for 9 the next morning. He had time. But the restlessness was unbearable. That's when he made an impulsive decision, the kind that changes everything. He got up, grabbed his suitcase, went down to the front desk, and canceled his reservation. He drove back to the airport, changed his flight to the next available one back to Charlotte, and just after midnight, he was in his car, driving home. He didn't tell Carla. Didn't call, didn't text. He just went. The road was empty, silent, and he drove with his mind racing, creating and discarding scenarios, trying to brace himself for what he might find, or for nothing at all. He got home around 2 in the morning. The street was quiet, only a few lights on in the neighbors' houses. He parked a few feet from the entrance, turned off the engine, and just sat there, watching. The house was dark except for the porch light that came on automatically. Carla's car was in the garage. She was home. He took a deep breath, grabbed his key, and went inside. He opened the door slowly, without making a sound. He climbed the stairs quietly. When he reached the bedroom, he found Carla sleeping deeply, covered up to her neck, her phone charging on the nightstand. Andrew stood there, just watching. For a few seconds, he felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe he was losing his mind. Maybe it was all just paranoia. But then something made him move toward the nightstand. He carefully picked up her phone, unplugged it, held his breath, and unlocked the screen. He knew the password. He always had. Carla had never hidden it. What he saw in the next few minutes destroyed every bit of trust he'd built over 6 years. There was an open conversation on WhatsApp. The contact was saved as Blake, PT. The messages were recent. The last one had been sent just a few hours earlier, at 10:30 at night. Andrew started scrolling up through the chat, reading every line, every word, and with each message, his chest tightened more. These weren't workout conversations. They were intimate messages full of double meanings, with emojis he knew well, the same ones Carla used with him early in their relationship. There were photos too. Selfies of her, smiling, wearing clothes he'd never seen before. And Blake's replies were always complimentary, suggestive, full of veiled promises. Andrew scrolled further up and found messages from weeks, even months back. Planned meetups, always on days when he was traveling. Tonight, after the workout? I'll pick you up in the parking lot. It was amazing, as always. The words seemed to burn the screen. He gripped the phone so tightly his fingers turned white. He breathed deeply, trying to control the anger, the pain, the feeling that everything around him was crumbling. He scrolled back down to the most recent messages. And there, in a conversation from 2 days ago, he found something that made him shake. Carla had sent, "He's traveling tomorrow. We can meet earlier." Blake replied, "Perfect. I've missed you already." Andrew read that line 3 times, as if he needed to be sure he was understanding it correctly. She'd planned it. It wasn't a slip-up or a moment of weakness. It was deliberate, organized, repeated. He turned off the phone, put it back on the nightstand, and walked downstairs. He sat on the living room couch, in the dark, just breathing, trying to process it. His head spun, thoughts colliding. How long? How many times? How many lies? How many "I'm going to the gym" were actually meetings with Blake? And who was Blake? The personal trainer he, Andrew, paid monthly to train his own wife? He didn't sleep that night. He stayed on the couch, staring into the darkness, waiting. When the sun started to rise, he heard footsteps upstairs. Carla had woken up. He heard the bathroom door close, the shower turn on, her morning routine beginning as if nothing had happened, as if it were just another normal morning. But Andrew knew it wasn't. He knew that from that moment on, nothing would ever be normal again. She came downstairs half an hour later, dressed for work, her hair still damp, her bag on her shoulder. When she saw Andrew sitting on the couch, she stopped mid-room. Her expression changed instantly, surprise, confusion, a hint of panic. "Andrew? What are you doing here? I thought you were in Atlanta." Her voice was calm, but there was something forced in it. He didn't get up. He just stared at her, silent, for a few seconds that felt like hours. Then, in a firm, cold voice, he said, "I came back early." She swallowed hard and tried to smile. "Oh, that's good. But, are you okay? You seem off." Andrew tilted his head slightly, still not taking his eyes off her. "Off? Me? No, Carla. You're the one who's off." Her smile vanished. She gripped the strap of her bag tightly. "What are you talking about?" He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He knew that once he asked the next question, there'd be no turning back. "How long has this been going on?" Carla froze. Her face went pale, her eyes widened slightly. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Andrew kept staring, waiting, giving her the chance to be honest, to tell the truth. But all he saw was the guilty silence of someone who'd just been caught. She tried to react, forced a look of confusion. "How long what?" "Andrew, I don't understand the question." He slowly stood up, picked up her phone from the table beside the couch, she hadn't even noticed he'd brought it downstairs, and held it out to her, the conversation with Blake open on the screen. "This. How long has this been going on?" Carla looked at the phone, then at him, then back at the phone. Her legs seemed to tremble. She dropped her bag to the floor and brought her hand to her mouth, as if trying to hold back words that threatened to escape. Andrew didn't move. He just waited. "Andrew, I can explain," her voice came out weak, shaky. "Then explain." He crossed his arms, his tone unchanged, but his eyes burning with contained pain and anger. She tried to step closer, but he took a step back. That made her stop. She took a deep breath, wiped away the tears beginning to form, and said, "It was, just a few times. It doesn't mean anything. I swear. I love you, Andrew. This doesn't change anything between us." He laughed, a short, dry laugh without humor. "It doesn't change anything? You've been cheating on me for months with the guy I pay to train you, and you say it doesn't change anything? It hasn't been months. It was, a few weeks. I was confused, I felt lonely. You travel so much, Andrew. I needed attention, someone who'd look at me, who'd make me feel." "Feel what?" He cut in, his voice rising for the first time. "Desired? I always desired you, Carla. I always gave you attention. I was always here. And when I wasn't, it was because I was working, to support this house, to pay for the gym where you met him." She cried, covering her face with her hands. "I know. I know I was stupid. I made a mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can." "Can what?" Andrew stepped forward, his voice now heavy with a pain he could no longer hide. "Pretend it never happened? Delete the messages, the photos, the meetups? Make me believe you love me while you cheat on me every time I'm away?" Carla sobbed, sinking to her knees, her hands still covering her face. "Please forgive me. I'll end it with him. I'll change. I promise." Andrew looked at her, kneeling there, shattered. Part of him wanted to believe, to give her a chance, to save what was left. But another part, the rational part, the part that had read every message, every word exchanged with Blake, knew there was nothing left to save. Trust, once broken like that, couldn't be rebuilt. Not with excuses. Not with empty promises. He took a deep breath, took her phone back, and put it in his pocket. "Get up." She obeyed, wiping her face, her red eyes fixed on him. "I'm not going to yell. I'm not making a scene. But you're leaving this house. Today." "Andrew, no. Today, Carla." He repeated, his voice firm as steel. You have until the end of the afternoon to pack your things and leave. And from now on, any communication between us will go through lawyers." She tried to step closer again, but he raised his hand, stopping her. "Don't touch me. You lost that right when you chose to sleep with another man." Carla stood still, stunned, as Andrew climbed the stairs, grabbed his laptop, and started working. He wasn't going to let this destroy him. He wasn't going to let her see how broken he felt inside. Impulsive, yes. But not weak. In the hours that followed, while Carla packed her bags between tears and failed attempts to talk to him, Andrew had already contacted a lawyer. He sent screenshots of the messages, explained the situation, and asked that divorce proceedings begin immediately. The lawyer, an experienced one, assured him that with that evidence, Andrew would come out virtually unscathed. No kids, no major shared assets, the split would be quick and clean. But Andrew didn't just want to come out unscathed. He wanted Blake to pay too. And that's exactly what he did. Andrew wasn't the kind of guy who did things halfway. When he made a decision, he followed through. And right then, while Carla finished packing her last clothes and loading personal items into cardboard boxes, he was already plotting his next moves. Sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open and his phone nearby, he began gathering every piece of evidence he had. Screenshots of messages, photos Carla had sent Blake, message logs clearly showing premeditated meetups. He organized everything into a digital folder, naming each file with date and time, and saved a backup to the cloud. Precision. Method. Everything documented. Carla appeared in the kitchen doorway, her eyes swollen, holding a box with photo frames and a few books. She tried to speak, but he raised his hand, cutting off any attempt at conversation. "I already said. There's nothing left to talk about. Finish packing your things and leave." She swallowed her tears, turned around, and went back to the bedroom. Andrew returned his focus to his laptop screen. He opened LinkedIn, typed Blake's full name into the search bar, and within seconds found his profile. Blake Hartman. Certified personal trainer, worked at Apex Fitness, the same gym Carla attended. In his profile, he presented himself as a dedicated professional, specialized in custom workouts and body transformations. There were photos of him smiling next to clients, demonstration videos, motivational posts about discipline and focus. Ironic, Andrew thought. Discipline and focus, but not enough to keep his hands off other men's wives. Andrew noted the full name, the phone number from Carla's messages, and the gym's address. Then he opened the Apex Fitness official website and looked for the contact section. He found the management email and the direct office number. He wrote it all down. But he wasn't going to act yet. Not like that. Andrew knew that for Blake to truly pay, he needed something more direct, more immediate, something that left no room for excuses or lies. That's when he had the idea. He picked up Carla's phone, which she'd left on the table while loading boxes into the car, and unlocked it again. He went into the chat with Blake and scrolled until he found a recent message where Blake wrote, "Can't today, love. My wife's home all day." Andrew paused. "Read it again." My wife. Blake was married. And from the context, his wife had no idea what was going on. Andrew smiled, not a happy smile, but one of recognition. Poetic justice. Blake wasn't just destroying Andrew's marriage, he was keeping his own marriage built on lies. And if there was one thing Andrew couldn't stand, it was hypocrisy. He went back to LinkedIn, clicked on Blake's profile, and in the personal details, found his wife's name listed in an old anniversary post, Jessica Hartman. Andrew copied the name, opened Facebook, typed it into the search bar, and within a minute found her profile. Public. Photos of her with Blake, trips, dinners, wide smiles of someone who believed she was living a happy marriage. He went back to Carla's phone, selected the most incriminating messages with Blake, the ones that clearly showed their involvement, scheduled meetups, affectionate texts, and sent them all to his own email. Then he created an anonymous email account, drafted a short, direct message, attached the screenshots, and sent it to Jessica Hartman via Facebook Messenger. The message simply read, "I thought you should know who you're married to. All the proof is attached. I'm sorry you're going through this." He hit send. No identifiable sender. No way to trace it. Done. The bomb was set. Carla returned to the kitchen a little while later, suitcase in hand. She looked at Andrew, still seated and calmly typing on his laptop as if nothing had happened. She tried one last time. "Andrew, are you sure this is what you want? We could talk. We could try." He didn't even look up from the screen. "I'm sure. The door's open. You can leave." She stood there for a few seconds, waiting for a change in tone, an opening, anything. But Andrew gave her nothing. He just kept typing. Carla took a deep breath, picked up her last suitcase, and walked out, closing the door behind her. The sound of the door shutting echoed through the empty house. Andrew stopped typing, closed his laptop, and sat there in silence, feeling the weight of the moment. The house, once theirs, was now his alone. And as painful as that was, it was also liberating. He spent the rest of the day clearing the house, taking down Carla's photos from the walls, packing away objects that still reminded him of her presence. It wasn't anger. It was necessity. He needed to erase the traces, start from zero. That night, lying in bed, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his lawyer confirming divorce papers would be filed on Monday. Andrew replied with a simple, "Okay," and turned off his phone. 2 days later, on a Saturday morning, Andrew was having coffee when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. On the other end, a woman's voice, tense, almost whispering. "Hello? Is this Andrew?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "My name is Jessica. Jessica Hartman. I got some messages from you." Andrew was silent for a few seconds, processing. Jessica. Blake's wife. He hadn't expected her to call. He thought she'd just deal with it privately, maybe confront Blake, maybe not. But there she was, on the other end of the line, clearly shaken. "I didn't send them," Andrew lied, keeping his tone neutral. "But I imagine you discovered something unpleasant." She took a deep breath on the other end. "Unpleasant doesn't even cover it. I don't even know where to begin. The messages, the photos, is all of that real?" "Yes. Unfortunately, it is." A long silence followed. Andrew could hear her labored breathing, the effort to hold back tears. Then she said, her voice breaking, "I always trusted him. Always. And now I don't even know what to do." Andrew felt a pang of empathy. He knew exactly how she felt. He'd been there just days ago. "Do what I did. Gather the evidence, hire a lawyer, and move on. There's no fixing this kind of thing." Jessica fell silent again. Then, in a firmer voice, she said, "Thank you. I don't know who you are, but, thank you for telling me. I deserve to know the truth." "Everyone does," Andrew replied. And he hung up. The following Monday, Andrew received confirmation that the divorce proceedings were officially underway. The evidence had been attached, and his lawyer assured him Carla had no way to contest it. The fault was hers, documented, irrefutable. Andrew also learned, through a mutual friend who still went to Apex Fitness, that Blake had been called into a meeting with gym management. Apparently, someone, Andrew suspected it was Jessica, had sent the same screenshots Andrew had compiled, along with a formal complaint about an employee's inappropriate conduct. Concerned about their reputation, the gym didn't hesitate. Blake was fired the same day. And the twist didn't end there. 2 weeks later, Andrew ran into an acquaintance at the grocery store, someone who knew both him and Carla. The guy approached awkwardly and said, "Man, I'm sorry about what happened. But, have you heard Blake lost a bunch of clients? His wife posted everything online. The guy's basically ruined." Andrew just nodded, showing no emotion. "Good." The acquaintance hesitated, then added, "And Carla? I heard she's living with her mom. She's trying to find a job, but it's tough. Apparently the story got out at the school where she worked. Parents found out and pressured the administration. She got transferred to a smaller school, out in the countryside." Andrew didn't respond. He just thanked him for the info and walked away. He didn't feel joy at Carla's suffering, but he didn't feel pity either. She'd made choices. And choices have consequences. In the months that followed, Andrew focused on himself. He sold the house, it held too many memories, and bought a modern apartment in downtown Charlotte. Smaller, more practical, better suited for the life he wanted to build moving forward. He went back to the gym, a different one, of course, reconnected with old hobbies, spent more time with friends. Slowly, the wound began to heal. It didn't disappear, but it stopped bleeding. A year later, on an autumn afternoon, Andrew was sitting at a cafe near work when he saw Carla across the street. She was carrying shopping bags, walking slowly, with a tired look on her face. Her hair was shorter, her clothes simpler. She seemed smaller somehow, less vibrant. Andrew watched for a few seconds, hidden behind the cafe window. Part of him thought about getting up, crossing the street, saying something. But then he remembered the messages, the lies, the "I'm going to the gym" that hid meetups with Blake. And he decided to stay put. Carla stopped at a crosswalk, looked around, and for a brief moment, her eyes met his. She froze. She recognized him. Andrew saw her expression shift, surprise, then sadness, then something that looked like shame. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but Andrew just looked away, picked up his coffee, and left through the back door. There was nothing left to say. Their story had ended that morning when he'd asked, "How long has this been going on?" and she froze. Everything after that was just consequence. And Andrew learned, in the most painful way possible, that trust isn't naivety. It's a choice. And when someone decides to break that trust, it doesn't matter how many excuses come afterward, how many tears are shed. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. And that's okay. Because sometimes, a fresh start is only possible when you accept the end. He kept walking back to the office, certain he'd done the right thing. And in the end, the best revenge wasn't shouting, humiliating, or exposing someone publicly. It was simply moving on, stronger, wiser, and letting Carla's choices echo on their own, dismantling the life she'd built on lies. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.